The quarter hit his coffee with a wet clink. Sarah didn't even look back as she walked away, her Hermes bag swinging, Sebastian's arm around her waist. "That's all you're worth now, Ethan." The lobby was gold and glass, and people who didn't see him anymore. Ethan stood there, backpack on his shoulder, dust on his jeans, everything he'd built for her, now living in her penthouse with another man. But in his wallet was something she'd never seen. A card. Gray, faded, no numbers. Just a phoenix worn so thin you had to squint to see it. His mother's last words. "When the world turns its back, let this answer for you." He didn't know what it meant. He was about to find out. The marble floor of Legacy Trust gleamed like frozen water under the morning light. Ethan shifted his weight, feeling the stiffness in his left knee, the one that had never quite healed right after the accident. 5 years ago, he'd been on track for a Fields Medal. Now he was standing in a bank lobby with everything he owned in a North Face backpack that smelled like rain and the cheap motel room he'd slept in last night. His phone buzzed. He didn't look at it. He knew who it was, or rather, who it wasn't. Lily, his daughter, 7 years old. Sarah had changed the custody arrangement 3 weeks ago, citing his unstable living situation as grounds to revoke even supervised visits. The last time he'd seen her, she'd tucked her favorite book into his jacket pocket. The Velveteen Rabbit, the one about becoming real through being loved. It was still in his backpack. He could feel the corner of it pressing against his spine. Sarah's laughter echoed from somewhere near the elevators. He could hear Sebastian's voice, low and satisfied, saying something about cleaning up loose ends. They thought he'd come here to beg, to ask for the severance from the consulting firm she'd convinced him to quit, to plead for access to the joint account she'd already drained. They were wrong. Ethan walked to the ATM alcove, his sneakers silent on the polished stone. The machine was sleek black metal with a discreet gold Legacy Trust emblem. He pulled out his wallet, genuine leather, a gift from his mother on his 18th birthday, worn soft now at the edges. Inside, tucked behind his expired driver's license and a photo of Lily from her last birthday party, was the card. It didn't look like much. No raised numbers, no chip. Just that faded phoenix, wings spread, barely visible against the gray surface. His mother had pressed it into his hand 3 days before she died, her fingers thin and cold. She'd been a librarian, quiet, careful with money. She'd lived in the same rent-controlled apartment for 30 years and took the bus everywhere. The card didn't make sense, but nothing made sense anymore. Behind him, Sarah's voice rose, bright and performative. "Oh my God, Sebastian, look! He's actually going to try to use an ATM. Should we call security now, or wait until he breaks it?" Ethan slid the card into the slot. The screen flickered, then went black. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen in the bank turned red. The main display above the teller stations blazed with white text. "Authentication required. Level 0 access." The air conditioning cut off. The elevator stopped mid-floor with a soft thunk. Even the ambient music died, leaving only the sound of Sarah's sharp intake of breath and Sebastian's muttered, "What the hell?" A door Ethan hadn't noticed before, unmarked, tucked between 2 marble pillars, opened with a pneumatic hiss. A man in a gray suit emerged, moving fast but controlled. He was maybe 50, silver at the temples, and his eyes went straight to Ethan's hand, still on the card reader. "Sir." The man's voice was quiet but carried. "Please step away from the machine." Ethan didn't move. "I just want to check my balance. I understand. But that card..." The man stopped, swallowed. "Who gave you that card?" "My mother." The man went very still. "Your mother's name?" "Eleanor Vance." The lobby might as well have been a held breath. Even Sarah had gone quiet. The man pulled a phone from his jacket, dialed without looking at the screen, and turned slightly away. Ethan caught fragments. Phoenix card. Eleanor's son. Get Mr. Whitmore on the line now. Sarah found her voice first. She always did. Ethan, what kind of scam is this? You can't just walk into a bank with some fake card and… Miss. The man in the gray suit turned to her, and something in his tone made her stop mid-sentence. I'm going to need you to step back, please. Sebastian moved forward instead, chest puffed, chin up. He had that look, the one men get when they think money equals authority. I'm Sebastian Drake, Drake Capital Management. I have a private banking relationship with this institution, and I want to know why you're wasting time on Mr. Drake. The man didn't raise his voice, didn't have to. Step back. The elevator chimed. The doors opened on the executive floor, and a woman stepped out. Late 60s, steel gray hair pulled back, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than Ethan's entire year of living expenses. She moved like someone who'd spent her whole life being the smartest person in the room and had stopped being surprised by it. She looked at Ethan, at the card, still in the machine, at the red screens. My God, she said softly, it's real. Ethan pulled the card out. The screen stayed red. What's real? The woman, Mr. Whitmore, Ethan guessed, gestured to the unmarked door. Mr. Vance, would you come with me, please? Sarah made a noise somewhere between a laugh and a gasp. Vance? His name is Ethan Riley. He took my last name when we got married. He doesn't have any. Your legal name is Ethan Vance. It wasn't a question. The woman was already walking toward the door. Eleanor Vance was your mother. She passed away 14 months ago. 13 months, Ethan said, and 3 days. The woman paused, turned back. There was something in her expression now. Not quite sympathy, but close. I'm Jennifer Whitmore, Regional Director. Your mother and I knew each other a long time ago. She gestured again. Please. Ethan followed her through the door. Behind him, he heard Sebastian say, Jennifer, I don't know what kind of game. And Jennifer Whitmore's voice, flat and final. Mr. Drake, if you're still standing in this lobby in 30 seconds, I'll have security escort you out and flag your accounts for review. The door closed on Sebastian's sputtering response. The hallway beyond was quiet. Thick carpet, soft lighting, paintings on the walls that Ethan recognized, minor works by major artists, real ones, the kind of art his mother used to point out in library books, her finger tracing the brushstrokes in glossy reproductions, the kind she used to show Lily on Saturday mornings, teaching her granddaughter to see beauty in careful strokes and deliberate choices. Jennifer led him to an office at the end of the hall. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a mahogany desk, nearly empty. 2 chairs. She didn't sit, just stood by the window, arms crossed, looking at him the way someone might look at a puzzle they thought they'd solved years ago, only to discover a missing piece. She never told you, Jennifer said. Told me what? About the card. About what it means. Jennifer pulled out her phone, tapped something, then held it out. The screen showed a scanned document, yellowed with age, covered in dense legal text. At the bottom, 2 signatures, Eleanor M. Vance and Jonathan Whitmore. My father, Jennifer said. He founded this bank in 1983, built it from nothing. By 1990, we were handling $11 billion in assets, and then the crash came. Ethan had heard about the crash. Everyone had. It had been before his time, but the economics textbook still used it as a case study. 3 major banks had failed in a single week. Thousands of people lost everything. Legacy Trust should have gone down with them, Jennifer continued. We had exposure to all the wrong securities. My father was facing bankruptcy, criminal charges. He was going to lose everything. And my mother helped him? Jennifer's smile was thin. Your mother saved him. She was a quantitative analyst at the Federal Reserve, 28 years old, nobody important. But she saw the cascading failures before anyone else did. She drafted a proposal, a way to restructure the debt, redistribute the risk, and stabilize the system. It was brilliant. It was also completely unauthorized. She went around her bosses. She went straight to the Treasury Secretary on a Sunday, showed up at his house with 140 pages of mathematical proofs, and told him he had 72 hours to act, or the entire Northeast banking system would collapse. Ethan tried to picture his mother doing that, the woman who'd hemmed his pants because tailors were too expensive, who'd made her own birthday cakes and refused to eat at restaurants that didn't list prices on the menu, who'd read The Velveteen Rabbit to Lily every night during her last hospital stay, her voice getting weaker but never stopping until Lily fell asleep. They listened to her. They implemented her plan to the letter. It worked. Legacy Trust survived. So did a dozen other institutions. Your mother saved roughly 300,000 jobs and $900 billion in retirement savings. Jennifer paused. My father offered her a position, executive vice president. She turned him down. Said she didn't want money or power. She wanted insurance. Insurance? Jennifer gestured at the card in Ethan's hand. She made him create that. One card. One account. Level 0 access, meaning it supersedes every other authority in the bank. She could withdraw anything, freeze anything, audit anything. She never used it. Not once in 35 years. My father asked her why she wanted it if she never planned to touch it. What did she say? She said it wasn't for her. It was for her son, for the day he might need the world to see him differently. The office suddenly felt too small, too warm. Ethan looked down at the card, at the phoenix that barely existed anymore, and thought about the woman who'd made his lunches in wax paper and darned his socks, and never, not once, mentioned that she'd rewritten the rules of American finance before he was born. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. A text from his lawyer. Sarah's team filed motion to terminate all parental rights. Hearing in 48 hours. Need to discuss strategy. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. Jennifer watched him, quiet. How much? His voice came out rough. I'm sorry. How much is in the account? Jennifer's expression didn't change. Mr. Vance, you're not understanding. There is no account. The card doesn't hold money. It holds authority. You have complete override power over every decision made by this institution. Every loan, every investment, every executive action. She let that settle. As of this moment, you have more control over Legacy Trust than I do. The world tilted. Ethan sat down hard in one of the chairs. Your mother made 2 conditions, Jennifer continued. First, that the card could never be activated until after her death. Second, that we were forbidden from telling you about it. She wanted you to find it on your own, to choose to use it. Or not. Why? She said she wanted you to find a woman who loved you for who you are, not what you could give her. Jennifer's smile turned sad. I'm sorry about your marriage, and about your daughter. Ethan's head snapped up. You know about Lily. Eleanor talked about her constantly, showed me pictures. Your mother was very proud of being a grandmother. Jennifer's voice softened. She was also very worried about the custody situation, about Sarah's influence, about whether you'd fight for yourself or just keep surrendering because you thought that's what love looked like. Something in Ethan's chest cracked. She never said. She wanted you to choose. That's what the card is, Ethan. It's a choice. You can walk away right now. Start over. Build a new life. Or you can stay and fight for what's yours. Your work, your daughter, your dignity. But you have to decide what kind of man you want to be. Ethan thought about Lily's book in his backpack, about the rabbit who became real through being loved. But there was another part of that story. The part where the rabbit had to endure being left behind, being forgotten, before the magic could work. Maybe he'd been waiting to become real, waiting for someone else to love him enough to make him matter. Maybe that was the wrong story. Sarah's under investigation, Jennifer said. Securities fraud, tax evasion. She's been using Drake Capital Management to run a pyramid scheme. They've defrauded 17 clients out of roughly $40 million. Ethan thought about the penthouse, the Bentley, the Hermes bag, the lawyer filing motions to erase him from Lily's life. Drake's in on it. Sebastian Drake is the architect. Sarah is his front woman. Charming. Trustworthy. Good with numbers. Jennifer tilted her head. You did her client projections, didn't you? All those spreadsheets she presented to investors. He had. Late nights, Sarah bringing him coffee and kissing his neck and telling him he was the only person smart enough to make her look good. He'd built the models. She'd taken the credit. And now she was using the money from those fraudulent investments to pay lawyers to take his daughter away. The SEC is going to move in 3 days, Jennifer said. They'll arrest both of them. But here's where it gets complicated. Drake Capital Management has a $500 million line of credit with Legacy Trust, personally guaranteed by Sebastian Drake. And Legacy Trust has fiduciary responsibility to 17,000 account holders. Understanding clicked into place. If I call the loan, Drake Capital collapses. It collapses spectacularly, which means every investor gets dragged into bankruptcy proceedings. Some of them are complicit. Some aren't. Some are pension funds, teachers, firefighters, people who trusted the wrong financial advisor. And if I don't call it? The SEC makes their arrests. The courts sort it out. It takes years. Some people get their money back. Some don't. Sarah and Sebastian might make a deal. Serve reduced sentences. Keep some assets in offshore accounts. Jennifer's expression was unreadable. Your mother's card gives you the power to choose. Justice now, messy and destructive. Or justice later, cleaner, but uncertain. Ethan closed his eyes. His mother had given him the power to burn it all down, to prove Sarah wrong in the most public, devastating way possible, to make her feel as small as she'd made him feel. But his mother had also read him The Velveteen Rabbit, had taught him that love wasn't about possession or power. It was about choosing to be present even when it hurt. And there was Lily. If he destroyed everything Sarah had built, what happened to the money for Lily's school? Her college fund? The life Sarah had constructed, however fraudulent, was still the life his daughter lived in. There's another option, Ethan said slowly. I call the loan, but I restructure the debt. Force Drake to liquidate assets in an orderly way. Work with the SEC to make sure the pension funds get paid first. It takes longer. It's harder. But fewer people get hurt. Jennifer studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Your mother would have liked that answer. Would she? She always said the difference between justice and revenge is who you're thinking about when you make the choice. Jennifer moved to her desk, opened a drawer, pulled out a key. There's something else, a safety deposit box. Your mother left instructions. It requires the card and your biometric signature to open. The vault was 3 floors down. The guards led him through a series of corridors that got progressively quieter, progressively colder. At the final door, one of them swiped a key card. A retinal scanner activated, then a handprint reader. Your turn, the guard said. Ethan placed his hand on the scanner. It beeped. The door opened with a sound like a bank safe in an old movie. Heavy bolts sliding back, gears turning. Inside was a room the size of a walk-in closet, walls lined with numbered boxes. Box 17 was at eye level. He slid the card into the slot beside it, put his palm on the reader. The box clicked open. Inside was a single manila envelope. No label. No markings. Ethan pulled it out, felt the weight. Papers. Something rigid. He opened it. The first document was a spreadsheet. Dense. Detailed. Every transaction Sarah had made in the last 4 years. Cross-referenced with bank statements, wire transfers, offshore accounts, his work, his projections, his models, all of them marked with tiny inconsistencies he'd never noticed before. Except, someone had noticed. Someone had highlighted every discrepancy in yellow, annotated them in his mother's careful handwriting. The second document was a legal filing, divorce papers, already filled out, already notarized. Grounds, fraud, and alienation of assets. Attached was a forensic accounting report showing exactly how much Sarah had stolen from him. Not just money, but intellectual property. Patents he'd designed, algorithms he'd coded, all of it filed under her name while he slept. The third document made his breath catch. Custody filing, evidence of parental alienation, documentation of Sarah's fraudulent income sources, a legal argument for emergency custody reversal based on unstable and criminal household environment. And at the bottom, a handwritten letter. Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've finally decided to stop making yourself smaller to fit into someone else's life. I'm proud of you. Not because you're smart. You've always been smart. I'm proud because you're kind. Because you believe in people. Because you think the best way to love someone is to help them shine. But son, you can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And you can't teach Lily what love looks like if you keep showing her that love means disappearing. She needs to see you stand up, not for revenge, not for pride, but because standing up is what parents do. We make the hard choices. We protect what matters. We show our children that they're worth fighting for, by fighting for ourselves first. I've given you tools. What you do with them is your choice. You can walk away, start over, build a new life, or you can stay and fight for what's yours. Either way, know this: you were never as small as they made you feel. You were never just the man behind the woman. You were always enough on your own. Lily deserves to know that man, the real one, not the one who bends himself into shapes to please people who don't see him. Love, Mom P.S. The rabbit didn't become real because the boy loved him. He became real because he loved the boy back, enough to risk being broken. Teach Lily that. Ethan stood in the vault, holding his mother's letter, and felt something crack open in his chest. Not grief. He'd already grieved. This was different. This was permission. Permission to stop apologizing for taking up space. Permission to stop pretending he didn't know his own worth. Permission to be Lily's father, not Sarah's shadow. He put everything back in the envelope, walked out of the vault. The guards fell in behind him, not threatening, just present. By the time he reached the main lobby, Jennifer was already there, standing near the teller stations with her phone in her hand. So were Sarah and Sebastian. Still there. Still waiting. Sarah's face was flushed, her eyes bright with fury. Sebastian looked like a man running calculations, trying to figure out where this had gone wrong. Ethan walked past them, went straight to the ATM alcove, inserted the card again. This time, the screen didn't go red. It went white. A simple menu appeared. Level 0 access. Granted select function. Ethan selected account review. Typed in Drake Capital Management. Numbers filled the screen. Loans, interest rates, payment schedules, and at the bottom, in red, personally guaranteed by Sebastian Drake. He turned to Jennifer. I want to call this loan, but I want it structured to protect the pension fund investors first. Can you do that? Jennifer's expression shifted. Surprise, then something like respect. It'll take longer, months, maybe a year. Drake and Sarah will have time to prepare legal defenses. But the teachers and firefighters get their money back? Yes. Then that's what we do. Ethan looked at Sarah. She was staring at him like she'd never seen him before. Maybe she hadn't. Maybe all she'd ever seen was the reflection of what she needed. I'm also filing for emergency custody. I have documentation of fraud and criminal activity. I have evidence you've been using stolen assets to fund Lily's lifestyle while planning to erase me from her life. Sarah's face went white. Ethan, you can't. I can, and I am. His voice was steady, calm. You told me I was worth $25. You're right, that is all I was worth to you. But I'm worth more than that to my daughter, and I'm done letting you teach her that love means making yourself disappear. Sebastian grabbed Sarah's arm, started pulling her toward the door. Ethan raised his voice just enough to carry. Jennifer, please execute the loan restructuring. Coordinate with the SEC. Make sure the pension funds are protected first. Already drafting the paperwork, Jennifer said. Sarah made a sound. Small, broken. Ethan, please. We can fix this. Think about Lily. Think about what this will do to her. I am thinking about her. Ethan pulled the quarter out of his pocket. The same one. He'd fished it out of the cup before leaving. Held it up so the light caught it. I'm thinking about what kind of man I want her to see when she looks at her father. And that man doesn't accept being worth $25. That man fights for her, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He set the quarter on the edge of the ATM. Keep it. Consider it a down payment on all the years you took from me. The courts will calculate the rest. Sebastian was already on his phone, voice rising, demanding to speak to someone who could fix this. The guards were moving toward them, polite but firm. Sarah was crying, but Ethan noticed it was the kind of crying she did when she wanted something. Performative, calculated to elicit sympathy. It didn't work anymore. Jennifer caught up with him at the door. You made the hard choice. My mother taught me that the hard choice is usually the right one. Ethan smiled. Especially when you're thinking about someone else while you make it. Where will you go? Back to the motel. Make some calls. Contact my lawyer about the custody filing. He paused. Maybe call Lily's school. Make sure Sarah can't pull her out before the hearing. And after? After, I don't know. Maybe I'll finish my PhD. Maybe I'll teach. Maybe I'll just figure out what I actually want instead of what someone else needs. He looked back at the lobby, at the marble and gold, and all the people who'd looked right through him an hour ago. But whatever I do, Lily's going to see me do it. She's going to know her father didn't give up. That's worth more than any amount of money. Jennifer held out her hand. Your mother was right about you. Ethan shook it. She usually was. He pushed through the doors. Outside, the city was loud and bright and full of people going about their lives. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Closer, a food truck was selling coffee and breakfast sandwiches. The smell of bacon and fresh bread made Ethan's stomach growl. He still had a backpack full of everything he owned. Still had a daughter he might not see for another 2 days. Still had a fight ahead of him that would be long and ugly and public. But he also had his mother's letter folded in his pocket, a card that had just given him the power to rewrite his entire life. And the understanding that sometimes the people who love you most give you exactly what you need, right when you need it, even if they have to do it from beyond the grave. Ethan bought a coffee, black, no sugar, sat on a bench in the sun and pulled out his phone. He had 3 missed calls from his lawyer, 2 voicemails from Sarah's attorney, and 1 text from a number he didn't recognize. He opened the text. Daddy? Mommy says I'm not supposed to call you, but I miss you. Mrs. Patterson at school says you're coming to pick me up on Friday. Is that true? I still have your jacket. It smells like you. I sleep with it every night. I love you. Don't forget me. Lily Ethan's eyes burned. He typed back with shaking hands. I could never forget you. I'm fighting to come get you, sweetheart. It might take a little while, but I promise I'm not giving up. I love you more than anything in the world. He hit send, waited. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Mrs. Patterson says you're brave. Are you brave, Daddy? Ethan looked at the bank, at the people rushing past, at the backpack with the velveteen rabbit inside, at the card in his wallet that had changed everything. He typed, I'm trying to be. Your grandma taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are. I'm scared right now, but I'm doing it anyway. For you. The response came almost immediately. Grandma told me that too. She said you were the bravest person she knew because you love people even when they hurt you. But she said someday you'd learn to love yourself too. Did you learn yet? Ethan's throat closed. Out of the mouths of children, his mother's wisdom filtered through a 7-year-old who saw things adults had trained themselves not to see. I'm learning, he wrote. You're helping me learn. Good, Lily wrote back. I have to go. Mommy's coming. Don't tell her I texted you. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. So much, the dots disappeared. Ethan sat on the bench, holding his phone, holding his coffee, holding all the broken pieces of his life that were finally starting to fit back together into a shape he recognized. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Jennifer. Just received confirmation from SEC. They're moving their timeline up. Arrest's happening tomorrow morning. You'll need to be available for testimony. Also, I took the liberty of contacting the family court. Submitted your custody filing as an emergency motion. Judge granted an expedited hearing. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Ethan typed back, Thank you. Jennifer responded. Your mother asked me to watch out for you. I'm just keeping my promise. Go get your daughter back. He opened his email, started typing. Dear MIT graduate admissions, 4 years ago, I withdrew from the mathematics doctoral program to support my wife's career. I'm writing to inquire about readmission. I understand this is unusual, but I believe I have something to offer now that I didn't have before. I know why the work matters, not because it proves I'm smart or because it makes other people proud, but because my daughter deserves to see her father build something real, something his own. I've attached my previous transcripts and my research proposal. I'm also including a letter of recommendation from my late mother, Eleanor Vance. She wrote it before she died, in case I ever found my way back to the work I was meant to do. Thank you for your consideration. Ethan Vance. He hit send before he could second-guess himself. Then he pulled out the backpack, unzipped it. Inside, beneath the spare clothes and toiletries, and the manila envelope from the vault, was the velveteen rabbit. Worn at the edges, Lily's name written in crayon on the inside cover. Ethan opened it to the page he'd marked, the one his mother had always paused on when she read it to him, the one she'd read to Lily in that hospital bed, her voice getting softer but never stopping. Real isn't how you are made. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. His mother had understood. You didn't become real by making yourself smaller. You became real by letting yourself be loved, and by loving yourself enough to believe you were worth it. Ethan closed the book, put it carefully back in his bag, finished his coffee. The sun was warm. The city was loud, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt like he could breathe all the way to the bottom of his lungs. Tomorrow, he'd face Sarah and Sebastian in court. Tomorrow, he'd start the process of rebuilding everything they'd tried to destroy. Tomorrow, he'd begin teaching Lily what her grandmother had taught him, that sacrifice doesn't mean surrender, that love doesn't mean disappearing, that being enough starts with believing you already are. But today, right now, sitting on a bench in the sun with everything he owned on his back and a card that had rewritten his life in his pocket, Ethan Vance allowed himself something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Not the desperate kind. Not the kind that depended on other people changing or circumstances shifting. The quiet kind. The kind that whispers maybe the story isn't over. Maybe the broken things can be mended. Maybe the rabbit who thought he wasn't real was real all along. Ethan stood up, shouldered his backpack. The city stretched out in front of him, full of possibility, full of second chances. He had a lawyer to call, a case to prepare, a daughter to fight for. He started walking. He didn't know exactly where he was going yet, but for the first time in a long time, he was going there as himself, not as Sarah's husband, not as someone's shadow, just Ethan, mathematician, father, the man his mother had believed in even when he'd stopped believing in himself. And that, he thought, reaching for his phone to call his lawyer, was more than enough. That was real.